and SicEm365.com.
Thank you very much, Craig. Appreciate the update. And now joined by Baylor Director of Athletics, Mack Rhoades, with his weekly segment with us, which we appreciate very much so. How much time are you spending on either Zoom, virtual, or any type of meetings most of your day right now?
Majority of it. And I'll give you an example. My first one started today at 8:30. And I think I've had one 30-minute break, and that's been it.
Wow.
I got off a call at 4:15 to be on this show and spend some time with you all, and then the minute I get off, I'll have another one at 5, and then I'll have another one at 6:15. So it makes for a quick day.
So
time flies by.
So for once, the 15 minutes with us is a good thing.
Well, it always is. Some days more than others. We'll see where the day goes.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm sure this is the way, but is there just a grid of different things that you've got going on with having to plan out with no definite future of possibilities? Is that kind of how you're keeping track of all these different plans you could have?
Yeah, I mean, there's the COVID-19 items and that bucket of things and the prep and the planning and the conversations and the different scenarios that you're thinking about and planning for, right? And certainly trying to be efficient with that, and it's hard to plan for 100 things at an elite level, right, versus 15. And so, where's the sweet spot? And then, you've got your day-to-day stuff that you're continuing to try to do. So, for example, my individual meetings with my exec team or, meetings with our leadership group or, any of those other things. And so, you're trying to continue on and do the stuff that we've been doing, and that has made us and helped us to be successful. But then like I said, all the COVID-19 stuff.
I saw where Bob Bowlesby had an interview with Seth Davis of The Athletic, and one of the pieces of that article, Bowlesby floats the idea of having a split season. Just, I guess there's a little concern about a wave coming again in the fall. But Matt, I know there's a ton of ideas out there. As far as the conference is concerned, what is the communication like, and what is, I guess, boiling down to what's really being discussed right now? Because I know there's so many things going on, and yet so many things you guys can't really do yet. So what's kind of the talk with the conference office for you guys?
Yeah, so, the ADs, Big 12 ADs, I think we are doing a good job of communicating, and we're certainly on a phone call at least once a week, and sometimes items come up and that dictates that we've got to be on twice a week. For an example, today we had a 2.5-hour call, the ADs, and probably, I think it was maybe the first hour and 45 minutes, it was with the head football coaches and, talking about, return to play and what do we think that looks like and the number of weeks, and then, flushing out and having conversations about scheduling models. And, obviously there can be no finality in terms of the scheduling model because we just don't know. And everybody's preference is 12 games on time. But if you can't do that, then what are some other type models and what are the pluses and minuses to them? Craig, you talked about, an interrupted season, right? Split season. Obviously nobody's preference, but if we begin to play and it's on time and for whatever reason we get into November or late October and there's a reoccurrence, an escalation of COVID-19 and we've got to stop things, well then we've got to be prepared to think about, hey, when do we resume? And if we haven't had those conversations prior to the end of October, then we're probably not in good shape, and we're probably not in a position to resume. So just trying to think through all of those things, and I'll be, quite frankly, it can be exhausting because, again, there's that idea of sweet spot, and some of that stuff can be limitless. But trying to be efficient with our conversations.
How do you stay on the phone that long?
It is a different type of endurance. I think running for an hour is one type of endurance, and then another type of endurance is being on a phone call for 2.5 hours and trying to stay locked in for all 2.5. So, but hey, everybody's doing it, and so it's a challenge for all of us.
Does what we're going through as a country right now, and of course the world, but it's a question I got from a listener. It seems that given that no one knows exactly what the new normal will be after this pandemic, but it seems assured that things will never be the same. At least some degree of social distancing is likely to remain. Has this entered the thought process at all in designing, which I know right now is on the back burner, but the designing of the new basketball pavilion?
Oh, wow. Great question. I didn't expect you to go there on that one. And, really good question. And to be quite frank, I don't know that we've had a lot of conversation about, do we change design? Do we make seats, further apart, any of that? But I certainly think it warrants discussion. You said it. I don't know that we should be wasting a whole lot of time talking about getting back to normal, because I just don't know that we're going to get back to, exactly the way it was before. And there will be this new normal. And I think, maybe there's some things that we can anticipate and some things that we can't. And the way we consume, just live events, maybe one that we really look at and think about differently. And so it's a great thought and certainly a great question.
Well, Mack, I would even think that after there's a vaccine, which I'm sure there will be eventually, whatever that is, that even the way that, you just interact, like, who hands you a hot dog, or how do you get your food, or, what's the, money changing hands scenario, all those things would just have to be looked at in just a precautionary sense.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything, that's off the table. I think you're right. I think the way you do concessions, right, is it more grab and go stuff, right? And just thinking through that stuff, if you get back to, and depending upon what crowds are like, right? Are you seating people with a seat in between? How do you do that? What are the requirements to get into the stadium or into the venue? And so those are things that we're having conversations about right now. But I think, Paul, you're right. I think it's there's just a lot to think about, and in the way we do business, and not sure that we're going to be doing it exactly like we've always done it.
And if you want to hear a conversation about some of the ideas that have been thrown out there about the change in concessions, guys, we had his name's escaped me, from S3 joining us to talk about his article that was discussing the
Wakefield, yeah.
Yes. So you can go check that out. There's some ideas on what the new future could look like over on SicEm365.com. Mack, it was a big weekend for Baylor football, 4 draft picks. And then with the late addition of Sam Tecklenburg coming out of retirement, 10 undrafted free agents, giving you guys a total of 14 new players in the league. Obviously, the draft looked different, but still came off without a hitch. And just your thoughts on 14 guys getting the opportunity to go play pro football.
Well, it was awesome. And, certainly I was kept updated by, after the 7 rounds and Sam going, we lost one of our strength coaches, so a little disappointed in that.
Yeah,
but,
that's true.
He, man, what a great young man, but just all of them, you just think about every single one of them, and not trying to single out everybody, or anybody, but happy for them. All 14 of them, I can honestly say that all 14 of them are just really good kids. Just proud of them. I'm honored to know them. I was particularly fired up with James Lynch going to my favorite team, the Vikings. So that was huge. I think about Denzel Mims, and I've been here long enough, 3.5 years, to see him grow and to mature, and to go to the Jets, where I think he has a chance with Darnold to make a huge impact. But I can say that when I first got here, wasn't did Denzel have the ability? Yep, absolutely. But I wasn't sure that he had the mentality, and just to see the way he matured and just almost grew up before your eyes, and now he has a real opportunity to make a living playing football at the highest level. But man, just all of them, Blake Lynch, all of them, man. They're just I'm so proud of all of them, and was fired up for Baylor football.
We had James and Denzel and Tech on yesterday, but James said he's already hard at work researching the Purple People Eaters, Mack. So that'll make you feel good.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I love that. So I love that. I'm thinking about snapping or sending him a photo of the number 10 Fran Tarkenton sweatshirt that I had when I was about 5 years old, and maybe sending that to him.
Yeah, he couldn't scramble. He couldn't scramble. The one thing about the Purple People Eaters, and I know you got to go, but you had Carl Ellard, Alan Page, Jim Marshall. Who's the one that everyone always forgets? You meant
Ed something?
Gary Larson. Like
Gary
a random,
Larson.
like a normal.
Yeah.
All right, I got to end it with this, and I know it's out of nowhere, but it's in this day and age where things are being cut back. Have you heard anything whatsoever from the Big 12 on the $6 million or whatever amount of money that they have withheld from Baylor? So now almost, 4 years?
No, I mean we're still that's still in process, right? They implemented that in October of 2018, if I remember correctly, right? That's the amount that they withheld as we went through that whole verification process, and that money is still sitting there, right? And there'll be a time, right? We talked about, or the Big 12 at the time talked about 48 months, and hopefully maybe there's a time here in the future where we can revisit that conversation. But
okay.
Probably right now is not the time.
Thank you for your time. Good luck. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen.